Lynn Shay had said that Freddy was to dreams what Jaws was to swimmers.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Terror Talk on Terror Express. I am Jason Bradford, and with us today we have Susie Linsenmayer.
Hi, how are you?
I am fantastic. So Susie, I heard you moved. Where'd you move from and to?
I did. I moved from New Jersey to South Carolina.
How are you adapting?
Adapting well so far. You know, the biggest thing for me was the drive. But it took us almost about 15 hours to get here, and I drove my car with my son and my 4 cats in the back, and that was a fun ride. We hit really bad weather in Virginia, and it just took about 15 hours for us to get here, and it was a horrible experience that I do not want to repeat.
And I can't imagine driving in a car for that many hours with 4 cats in the back was pleasant. I would imagine that had to be some kind of a nightmare.
Well, honestly, my cats weren't that bad, but my husband drove in front of me in his car, and he had my bird, and he said my bird was yelling at the truckers. Every time a trucker was up on a side window, my bird started screaming. So he had the worst of it. So,
well, speaking of nightmare, tell us, why is Nightmare on Elm Street one of your favorite movies, if not your favorite?
Honestly, it was one of my first experiences with scary movies, and it was only because I was told I wasn't allowed to watch it. I think it was when it was released on VHS. I know I'm dating myself. That my parents, I guess, rented it or something, and my older sisters and my parents and my one sister's boyfriend was there. They were all in their room, like watching it together, and they wouldn't allow me in there. And I remember being so mad because I wanted to watch it. But they would not let me in there because they said that I would never sleep alone again if I did. So it took a while, but after a while, I would stay up late, and I, caught on to HBO, and I used to watch horror movies on HBO all night without them knowing. So
how did you sleep? How did you sleep the first time you watched it?
At first it wasn't that bad, but I kept waking up, I think, and I kept I kept thinking that I was more afraid that I was going to have a nightmare.
Yes.
But it was weird. I didn't, but I kept thinking I was going to have one. So I was kind of like, I kept waking up in the middle of the night. Parts of it were like really scary. Glens Death was one of the big ones. That was the reason why my parents didn't want me to see it, because they were afraid I would never sleep in my own bed again. And mind you, I was probably about 7, 8, something like that.
You were more afraid of having the nightmares than waking up from actually having a nightmare.
Yeah.
The fear of the nightmare is what kept you awake, as opposed to falling asleep and waking up from an actual nightmare.
Yeah.
You mentioned Glenn. Are you familiar with how they filmed that scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they did like the same type of thing that they did with Tina's death. They had the rotating room. And I know that that was actual people pulling on the things and rotating the room. Like, it wasn't mechanical. There was actually people doing it and, pulling on the room and stuff. And I'm kind of about the whole deleted scene thing with Glenn's death. I don't know why they took that out, because I kind of thought it was kind of cool. How like at the deleted scene, he actually was spit up back out of the bed.
Yeah, that would, and I hate to admit it, but I mean, I haven't seen it. Is this available to see? Is there a deleted scene that they've published?
I believe so, because I think that's how I've seen it. I don't know if it was like on YouTube or something, but it was a deleted scene that he actually gets regurgitated from the bed and flops out on the bed.
Cool.
Yeah, it was either in one of the documentaries where they spoke about it, or you can probably find it on YouTube, I'd imagine. But it was really cool, and I think it was effective, because it was almost like you weren't sure the way they did it in the film, it was almost like you weren't sure, did he really die or was that Nancy's dream? Because then you go into Nancy's dream and she's in the boiler room and she finds Glenn's headphones and they're
Mm-hmm.
bloody.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, I mean, you can kind of gather, all right, I guess he did die. Um,
Yeah.
but it was almost like you weren't really sure because you never saw the body.
Right.
And then at the end, you were confused again because they all show up in the car, getting ready to go to school or whatever. And then that stuff happens with the car and the, you know, the flip top of the car coming up and it's all like red and green. And you're like, all right, you know?
Yeah.
So
No, the ending is for a very long time when I watch it, the ending throws me a little bit too. It doesn't make complete sense. There's no thorough clarity there. But then when you think about it, if you were having a nightmare, they don't make sense. There is no clarity. So it kind of
exactly.
like is like the dream within a dream, possibly within another dream, is kind of this brilliant scheme that Wes Craven may have had and made this a slasher piece, masterpiece, slasher piece. Now
Right.
you had mentioned the character of Glenn, who was played by Johnny Depp. I want to talk a little bit about Kevin Bacon in Friday the 13th. I just had this discussion with someone how he never really embraced the character of Jack from Friday the 13th, and he kind of shunned it for many years. And it wasn't until recently that Kevin started to embrace his fans of the Friday the 13th film and his character and his role in the movie. Now, on the other hand, we have Johnny Depp, who has always embraced the character of Glenn and his role in Nightmare on Elm Street. And he even made a cameo in Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Going outside of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and I mentioned the story of Johnny Depp being in The Final Nightmare because I'm segueing here out of the original. Do you have another film in the franchise that you like second best, or do you have another film in the franchise that you really don't like at all?
Well, both. And before I get into that, I want to go like backtrack to like what you said. And I
Mm-hmm.
think like the differences between Kevin Bacon and Johnny Depp is Johnny Depp had more of a role. He had
Mm-hmm.
more of a role and more scenes and more lines in the film than Kevin did in Friday the 13th. So I can kind of see where there's like a difference there. And I don't think Kevin was necessarily shunning it. I think, you know, he just, it was a quick role. I was in it maybe for like a minute and then like died. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I could see where, in a way, because like in 13 Fanboy, I was literally in it for 30 seconds and told Corey Feldman to give me $35. But you know, I can kind of see where he was coming from with that. Um, but because Kevin became such a big star after, obviously when people realize, oh, Friday the 13th was his first movie, they're going to want to talk about it. And
Right.
because his experience is his experience, I guess, it was so little and minimal, like on screen. I guess he didn't realize why that would make an effect on people. Maybe it was because only now that he's a huge star now, um, you know, or it was just one of those things where, um, you know, it was just a quick little minute thing I did in this film back in the day. As to
Yeah.
where Johnny Depp had, like I said, he had a more meaty role. He, you know, was the boyfriend of the main protagonist, and you know, he had more lines, more scenes. So there's a difference in that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as far as in the Nightmare series of which ones I liked and which ones I didn't, I have to say, um, part two was confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when I first watched it, you know, obviously when it first came out, I honestly I didn't like it. But now that you know I'm older and I watch it, I kind of have a different type of respect for it.
Yeah.
Um, so it's different. And I really liked a lot of the scenes in there. Now that you know, when you're older and after you watch it a bunch of times, you know, you get to see things you didn't see before, or think about how they did things the way it was before, you know. um Now I have a different respect for the movie. But I gotta say, one of like my next favorite since the first one was the third one, when Nancy came back.
Yes.
and trying to help the kids. And then when she died, of course, I bawled like a baby because it
I did
just,
too.
um, Patricia Arquette really, I felt her pain.
Yeah. I thought she was a
Uh,
great person.
she's such an amazing, amazing actress, and
Yes.
you literally felt her pain through the screen. So part three was another one of my, of my favorites. I,
Yes.
I liked four and five because I love Alice.
I do too.
But honestly, it was just because Dan was so damn hot. Um, I was just, and I, of course, we would watch those all the time, for him. And then, of course, Alice's brother. And it was like, but that was, obviously I was older, teenage girl, boy crazy. And that was why.
I
But
did I did think they were all fun in their own way, with the exception of Freddy's Dead. That's my least favorite. I didn't like, with the exception of Roseanne Barr and Tom Arnold. I did like them in that. But
yes.
the ones with Nancy, Heather Langenkamp, those are my three favorites, 1, 3, and 7. Now
Mhm.
I do like the character of Alice as well, played by Lisa Wilcox. I thought she was a fantastic um, final girl. And I like the cast of part 4. I probably seen it 5 or 6 times before I realized that was Brooke Thies from Just the 10 of Us.
Oh
Another
my
one of
God.
my
And
favorite sitcoms.
them did just the 10 of us. And I used to love that
Yeah,
show.
I did too. I still wish it would come out on DVD, but yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I know.
So what was your
And
least favorite?
I actually got to interview Lisa Wilcox many years ago
Oh,
with
nice.
one of my friends, Edith, and we spoke about her experiences and stuff like that. It was such a great interview. She was such a sweetheart. Um, you
Now, what did
know,
you interview her for?
we interviewed her because we did a role play pages on Facebook
Hmm.
of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and um, in my role play, I was Nancy. And then my friend Edith was Lisa Wilcox's character, Alice. And we decided, we wanted to do something different for our pages. So why don't we try and do an interview, you know,
Yeah.
um, with one of the people? We reached out to Lisa and she agreed. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so we spent a nice time and did a nice interview with her. It was well received. A lot of people watched and listened because I think we did it on a Facebook Live or something
Does,
like that.
does that still exist? Is that video something that that
No,
interview something we can see?
those pages were eventually taken down after we
Uh,
decided not to do the to do that anymore with the roll pages. Life gets in the way, everybody got
yeah,
busy.
yeah, yeah.
So
Sounds fun though.
yeah, it was really fun at the time, when we were doing it,
Yeah.
but we realized
Uh,
it did take up a lot of time because we were really involved in it. But that was just a great experience for me, just speaking with her, and like
yeah.
she was a genuine sweetheart. But
Now, is there your least favorite in the franchise? Which one would you say that one is, and why?
oh God. Now I can't say, well, now yes I can say, and I agree with you. I believe it's Freddy's Dead. Um
Yeah,
Before that came out, it probably would have been part two. But like I said, as I've gotten to watch it again
yeah,
uh, with a different, mindset
yeah,
and being older, I actually appreciate that film a lot more.
yeah,
Uh, but Freddy's Dead, I didn't really care for. It was confusing. Um, and then having, Freddy had this daughter that she didn't know about him. I don't know. Did he know about her? I don't know because it was like
yeah.
really weird.
I
So
think
it was just
the only thing I would have done differently with that is I think they brought Fred Krueger out too much into the limelight, made him too much of a Joker. If they had left him a little bit darker, I liked the story of having the daughter. I liked his backstory. I liked Alice Cooper being his father. I liked the cast.
I love.
I didn't like the goofiness of Freddy in part 6.
Right, exactly. The one that I do like a lot is New Nightmare. That
Yeah,
was an
yes,
excellent film.
I love that one.
Yeah, that one was really good. I really enjoyed that one. And
Yeah,
I also loved Freddy versus Jason.
yeah. Before we end this interview, I do want to ask you another question about Nightmare on Elm Street. Two of them actually, out of the entire franchise. What is your favorite kill?
Oh goodness.
Mhm.
Out of the entire franchise,
Yes.
let's see. honestly, I would have to say Tina's death
Oh, that
in
was
the first
hard.
one,
First time you see it.
because
Yeah.
it was brutal.
Yes.
And at that time, obviously, it was the first movie. Everything was fresh. You didn't know what
Yeah.
to expect, you
Right.
know. And that just like hit you like a ton of bricks.
Mhm.
And the way they did that, and then poor Amanda, I know she's spoken about it. Because they had everything on the set nailed down, and they were
Yeah.
spinning the room. She actually got a case of vertigo after, where
Oh, I
she,
bet. Yeah, that would be
um,
awful.
yeah, and I experienced vertigo, so I
Yeah, I
can
do
relate
too.
to that.
Oh yeah, so can I.
Yeah,
It's
it
awful. That's
it
awful.
is awful. It's horrible, and I think her death really, I think that scared me the most. Not the
Yeah.
one that my parents thought, which would be Glenn's death, but it was Tina's death that actually stuck with me.
I think I'm gonna go with Debbie from part 4. Her transformation into the cockroach was really fun.
Oh,
And
that was fun.
Brooke's reaction when he broke her arms and her screaming and just the way she ran and the sounds and her movement. I just loved everything about Debbie's death in part 4. And it was very clever how they did he's got us going in circles. We're dreaming with Alice and Dan. That was clever. And then my last question for you is in the Nightmare on Elm Street, related more to part 1 or just the franchise as a whole, what have you not seen in a film that perhaps you would like to see happen?
Well, I would like for them, first off, to continue the franchise. Whether it would be, without Robert. I know Robert had said he would like Kevin Bacon to
Yeah, yeah.
take over the role, which
Hey,
I
let's circle
support.
back to Kevin Bacon. Yeah,
Yep,
absolutely. I
which
think
I
he'd be
totally
brilliant.
support.
I do too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would like to see. I mean, I would like to see Freddy get back to like you said earlier, being darker and not so much of a jokester. I mean,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think there can be some dark humor, but I would like to see him being, really dark and,
Yeah.
meaty in that role.
Yeah. Yep. You got it. Well, I thank you for being here on this episode of Terror Talk, where we were able to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street and things related there too. Susie, I thank you so much for joining us on this episode, and have a great night, and hopefully there's no nightmares on your street.
Oh, you too. Thank you so much. And, I definitely, again, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.